The MCU hasn't had the best track record with villains. They've nailed near enough every superhero joining the live-action comic book world, but their supervillains have been a far more mixed bag. Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio, I'm happy to say, can join the ranks of Thanos, Zemo and Loki, for not only is his character a fantastic adaptation of the original inked iteration, but he delivers on giving us a baddie that challenges Spider-Man in a visceral, mind-bending way. So today, we're going to be breaking down exactly why Mysterio worked so well, and what the future might hold for the character. And not only that, but I want to delve into why Jake Gyllenhaal was the perfect person to play the character, given his history of chilling, complex performances, not to mention why we've barely scratched the surface of what this character could become. Before we jump into all of that, I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Marvel Collect by Topps. Marvel Collect is the ultimate destination for Marvel digital collectibles, where you can collect your favourite characters from across the Marvel multiverse. Every day you'll be presented with new missions that you can complete to earn new rewards, which will help you earn gold to trade in for new packs to rip open. To kick things off, we can use the wheel and 1 energy to collect some packs or free gold, and it looks like we got Deadpool. If this isn't a sign to do a Deadpool video, I don't know what is. We have a ton of gold, which we claimed for free from our daily rewards and the store. So now you can open a bunch of packs to try and complete a set. Now that we've opened a bunch of packs, we're going to be able to collect more daily rewards, so let's make sure we do that now. Okay, so let's go through some of these. Black Knight, Spinneret, Thanos. I got Thanos. Yeah, baby. Now that we have a decent collection going, we can trade with other collectors for cards that we need to complete sets, or fuse our more common cards or duplicates to upgrade to rarer and more unique cards. My username is FullFat360, so if you want to collect and trade with me, follow my link in the description to download Marvel Collect by Topps today. Spider-Man Far From Home picks up shortly after the events of Avengers Endgame, and even though he wasn't in the movie all that long, it was a big deal for Peter Parker. He saw himself reunited with Tony Stark, and finally got that hug.
What are you doing?
It's a sweet moment for both characters, not least because it proved to Peter how much he meant to Stark. Hell, he will never know he is the sole reason for pretty much the entire universe coming back together. But then, just minutes later, Peter had to watch Tony die. We of course know this isn't the first father figure Peter has had to lose, but this is the first time we've seen it play out in the MCU so far. So far is key here, because Marvel will totally tackle the essential details of his origin, including Uncle Ben, in a future Spider-Man movie. They were wise to sidestep it and bring him into the franchise post-origin. There's time, guys. We'll see it. There's no rush. Anyway, this meant that when we came to Far From Home, the stage was set for Mysterio to enter Peter's life in a big way. Enter Mysterio, the handsome hero, warrior, fishbowl enthusiast with a long history of battling demonic, all-powerful elementals. Mysterio is the perfect fresh new talent the superhero world was begging for, and he takes out Not Hydro Man all by himself whilst Peter barely manages to save an inanimate object. Okay, that's not fair, he probably saved some souls on the ground by doing that. Now we of course all know that this Mysterio is a ruse, so I'm not going to bother structuring this in lieu of the big reveal during the movie's midpoint. From here on out, I'm just going to call him Hero Mysterio or Fake Mysterio, whatever. And the reason why the fake Mysterio works is because he's awesome. He's got a dope suit, even with the fishbowl, he's powerful, he can freaking fly, he can cast out cool spells and energy blasts, he's effortlessly likeable and charming.
Mr. Beck and I will...
My name is Mysterio.
He's got this backstory where he's from an alternate Earth that got obliterated by a group of unstoppable monsters in a huge global scale war, a war that he lost, and now he's here to stop it happening to our world in the name of his dead family. I mean, he's like some kind of Kyle Reese mixed with Doctor Strange. Come on, he sounds too good to be true!
Turns out the myths are real.
Like Thor. Thor was a myth, and now I study him in my physics class.
It's easy for Quentin to slip his realisation of myths into reality, and personally for Peter, he feels like the logical replacement for Tony Stark, both for the world and for him personally. Quentin Beck manages to manipulate Peter so well, without making the audience think Peter is an idiot to trust him, and that is a fine line to tread. He's like Stark enough to get on Peter's good side, but the real trick shot is that he's the total opposite of Tony Stark in all the ways that matter. Stark was emotionally stunted at times.
I'm kind of in the middle of something right now.
Don't cut me off when I'm complimenting you.
That's not a hug, I'm just grabbing the door for you.
It was hard for him to open up to Peter until he thought it was too late. But Quentin is kind, complimentary, he validates Peter right off the bat.
Don't ever apologize for being the smartest one in the room.
When Fury scolds Parker, Mysterio is the only one in the room to show him some compassion.
Are we boring you?
He's not bored. He's just thinking about how you kidnapped him.
And he's emotionally astute. He's the only person in Peter's world who can truly relate to his superhero double life.
You're not a jerk for wanting a normal life, kid. People look up to you, and even if you win a battle, sometimes they die.
He even makes a point of telling him he isn't wrong to want to brush off his responsibilities every once in a while. It's hard, and on top of that, he's a 15-year-old kid. It all ties into the larger arc at play in the movie, that of responsibility.
Uneasy lies the head that wears the crown.
So yeah, with great power comes great responsibility. That's literally what that's saying. That's a neat way of doing it without actually having to say it. Peter has been entrusted with the Stark legacy, but for him it feels unearned. He looks to someone who is seemingly confident all the time, always one step ahead, who always knew what to do, and he feels in his heart that this mild-mannered nerd just can't measure up to all that, which is understandable, because the last guy only saved the entire universe.
I'm glad you're here.
Mysterio uses this to his advantage. He builds Peter up only to tear him back down. He makes Peter feel worthless without ever doing it directly. After Mysterio defeats the Fire Elemental in a big showy self-sacrificial way, I wonder where he got that idea, he is praised by Nick Fury in front of Peter.
You should join us.
Thank you. I just might take you up on that.
Peter then has to suffer the embarrassment of being told in front of everyone present that he just isn't cutting it.
Here,
Mr. Fury,
I'd love to have you in Berlin too, but you've got to decide whether you're going to step up or not.
Oh, look at him, he's getting teary.
Gonna cry?
Fury doesn't want him to go to Germany, all because he didn't pull his weight in the staged battle the same way Mysterio did. At this point, he doesn't know it's all staged, so all that Peter is left with is a crushing feeling of inadequacy. It's the perfect time for Mysterio to strike.
Let's get a drink.
The heart, Beck. First we attack his heart. In the very next scene, Beck is at the bar giving Peter another heart-to-heart, and with all things considered, it makes sense that Peter would do this.
But maybe they have a contact lens version of them.
you try him on.
No, come on.
Try him on.
Beck doesn't even have to make a play for the glasses. He continues to play the selfless hero at every turn, only making Peter want to hand them over more. The entire time, Beck has been creating the perfect conditions for this to occur.
A leader. You stopped the elementals. You saved my life. You saved the world. Okay? He'd want you to have him.
He gained his trust, he showed him he was worthy, showed him that his responsibilities could, in theory, be passed to another. It's the easy option, the kind of option a 15-year-old kid would take if his main goal on his holiday was getting a girlfriend instead of risking his life. This was difficult to do, but Quentin Beck makes it look easy.
See, that wasn't so hard.
This is where we finally learn who Mysterio really is in the movie. He's a power-hungry maniac, desperate to show the world that it's the little people, not the superheroes, that can still change the world. It's all very Syndrome. It's also a great character motivation that makes perfect sense 10 years in a cinematic universe that's seen superheroes save the world countless times.
You can be the smartest guy in the room, the most qualified, and no one cares. Unless you're flying around with a cape.
I'm sorry, but taking the scientist from Iron Man 1 and bringing him back here is a great idea. It's a throwaway character for the audience, which is exactly how the character feels in his own life. It's how all of those ex-employees feel. Throwaway. The same inadequate feelings that Peter felt, the same feelings that meant a man like Quentin Beck could manipulate them into becoming his lackeys. And this is really why Jake Gyllenhaal is the perfect choice for Mysterio, because he can be the dashing, perfect leading man type, the guy you trust with your life, and then he can also be the creepy, unhinged, and venomous guy.
Now, when I say that I want these things, I mean that I want them.
Which brings me to Nightcrawler.
And the last thing that I want, Nina, is for you to do the things that I ask you to do when we're alone together in your apartment. Not like the last time.
Nightcrawler is the story of Lou Bloom, a quiet recluse who is seemingly innocuous, save for one simple fact. He wants to be successful.
Who am I? I'm a hard worker. I set high goals, and I've been told that I'm persistent.
He needs to be successful.
My motto is, if you want to win the lottery, you have to make the money to buy a ticket. So what do you say? I could start tomorrow, or even why not tonight?
No.
At any and all costs.
How about an internship then? That's something I'd be willing to do.
I'm not hiring a fucking thief.
Where a movie like Whiplash explores the same character trait to show how it can be self-destructive, Nightcrawler shows how this obsessive behaviour can hurt and destroy others. It is because of his drive to be successful that he steals from, lies to, and assaults people in his never-ending quest. Everyone works on a value system. To Lou, even the most primal human instincts and urges are real estate to be bartered.
I'm negotiating.
You're threatening to stop selling to me.
That's your choice. The true price of any item is what somebody's willing to pay for it. You want something, and I want you.
He finds his first true taste of success by becoming a Nightcrawler, chasing accidents and crimes during the seedy hours of LA's nightlife, so that he can in turn film them and sell them to news networks. The movie presents a mutilated image of the American dream. Sure, you can get what you want, make something of yourself, anything you want to be, but it might pay to step on a few people in the process. Because Lou is hardworking, he is pragmatic, he finds his way out of difficult solutions, you kind of want to see him succeed, just so you'll get the residual satisfaction, and the movie wants you to feel sick about that. But we're trained to see success as an unshakable good thing. We're supposed to feel joy watching others make their way up the ladder because it gives hope to you. You can do it too. When we see success stories in the real world, we rarely see who may have been stepped on to get there. Jake Gyllenhaal's performance in Nightcrawler is so hypnotically compelling. I can't take my eyes off it from start to finish. There's shades of it in Mysterio as well.
They'll see what I want them to see!
You still need the cape.
Yes, Janice. I still need the cape.
Particularly in the way both Lou and Quentin coerce their colleagues, Rick and the ex-Stark employees respectively. They present themselves as calm, with clear, concise instructions, implying they have control over themselves and others.
Tony Stark is gone. There is a window of opportunity and someone will step up.
But of course, both characters really lack control, but crave it so desperately in order to use people to achieve their goals the exact way that they want. When the mask slips, Gyllenhaal lets out a hint of the quiet rage bubbling underneath the surface.
I am trying to fool 7 billion people here, including Nick Fury, who happens to be the most paranoid and most dangerous person on the planet.
So when I say that a particular number is my lowest price, that's my lowest price. And you can be assured that I arrived at whatever that number is very carefully.
Like Mysterio, Lou preys on the vulnerable. He takes the vulnerable, those who need employment and reward for their good efforts, and he manipulates them into doing what he wants.
Brilliant. Powerful illusions, real damage, worked like a charm. And it's just the beginning.
Thank you, brother.
Mysterio knows how to stir a crowd of people so that later he will have license to order them around. So too does Lou know exactly when to eke out a little bit of validation for Rick.
I'm also aware of your increased enthusiasm. It's great to see your eyes light up when you're working on a new idea. I hope you'll be inspiring us.
Nightcrawler takes this a step further than Far From Home ever does. In the climax of the movie, Lou actually constructs a scenario where Rick ends up getting killed just so that he can get the best footage possible.
You saw it. You saw it.
It's also so he can get out of giving him a raise.
Okay, I want more money. A lot more.
You took my bargaining power, Rick. You used it against me. You would have done it again. Just admit it.
Despicable. The character of Lou Bloom is in many ways an illusionist just like Quentin Beck. He is a hollowed out husk of a person who draws upon what he sees and hears to paint a picture of something else entirely. Just as Quentin Beck sees a Thor or a Doctor Strange or an Iron Man and concocts a composite of these people to create the perfect superhero archetype, Lou Bloom uses information. He absorbs it like a sponge and regurgitates it to actualize himself as competent and all-knowing.
A proper frame not only draws the eye into a picture, but keeps it there longer, dissolving the barrier between the subject and the outside of the frame.
He also uses it to create a personality where one perhaps previously didn't exist.
I feel like grabbing you by your ears right now and screaming in your face, I'm not fucking interested. Instead, I'm gonna drive home and do some accounting.
The way he says this always makes me laugh because the wording is so aggressive, yet Gyllenhaal delivers it so casually. But then that's because he probably got the phraseology off the internet, as he does with almost everything.
They've done studies, and they've found that in any system that relies on cooperation, from a school of fish, these experts have identified communication as the #1 single key to success. That's what I'm paying you to do. You need to show initiative. There is no better way to achieve job security than by making yourself an indispensable employee.
Back in the day, this movie sold me on the idea that Gyllenhaal could be the Joker. Really, it convinced me that Jake Gyllenhaal could be anything. It's not the greatest movie of all time, but it is hands down one of my favourite performances of all time. I will always think about that performance. The movie also deals with the idea of perception. Rene Russo's character Nina is the head of the network. Her contract is due to expire, and the current ratings will directly affect whether she gets to keep her position.
And I'm leading with a goddamn stabbing.
So you want that then?
I want you to get in the goddamn game. I want something people can't turn away from. I want what you fucking promised me.
So she needs stories. Bloody, horrifying stories. Things that they can package up and sell to their predominantly white middle-class audience.
It wasn't a home invasion, it was a drug robbery. This is news.
It detracts from the story. The story is urban crime creeping into the suburbs.
That's what it said on the news. And the news never lies.
The truth doesn't matter. The narrative is what matters. Nightcrawler posits that what we really want from the news is only what we want to hear. In a, of course, far more family-friendly way, Far From Home explores the same ideas.
He's like Iron Man and Thor rolled into one.
Following the disorientating, tragic fallout of the snap and the 5-year gap, a time in which the world lost heroes like Iron Man and Captain America, there appears to be a willingness on the part of everyone, including Nick Fury and Peter Parker, for a new hero. Someone to take responsibility so they don't have to. Someone who can do the hard work. This moment in time is the perfect opportunity for Beck to create Mysterio and use what people want to believe for his own ends. Beck being a crazed, power-hungry maniac detracts from the story. The story is the rise of Mysterio, the next Iron Man. So everyone subconsciously turns a blind eye.
It's easy to fool people when they're already fooling themselves.
These ideas come to a head at the midpoint of Far From Home in what is surely its most impressive sequence, not least from a visual standpoint as well as a story perspective. Suspecting that Beck has in fact created the monsters they've been fighting for his own ends, Peter travels to Germany with Nick Fury to work out their next course of action.
Parker? Parker!
What's wrong?
It's Beck. He's here.
Peter is thrown into a complex web of illusions, at one point literally, as Beck toys with the wall crawler.
Peter, what's going on?
I know this isn't real.
Do you though?
Psychological torment is Beck's world. It doesn't matter if it's material, it matters that it can hurt Peter on the inside. He's basically a tech-based scarecrow, and if you had any doubts that Marvel would struggle to transfer one of Spider-Man's B-list villains into live action, there's no better scene to prove how wrong you are than this one. The visual effects team did such a good job with the illusion sequence because it manages to feel unique in comparison to other trippy sequences in the same franchise. It would have been easy to make this look like a discount version of the cosmic trip in Doctor Strange, but instead the movie makes sure that every visual element we're looking at has a point to it.
If you were good enough, maybe Tony would still be alive.
You are just a scared little kid in a sweatsuit.
Peter stands in the ruins of the fallen heroes from the cataclysmic Infinity War, a visual representation of his place amongst them, the accelerated need for someone such as himself to take up the responsibility of filling those shoes. But because he palmed off those responsibilities to another, he has allowed heroes to be replaced with villains. We see an army of Mysterios, not least a display of his awesome power, but also suggesting that in the wake of the Avengers' end, pretenders will continue to come out of the woodwork. The hole left by the events of Avengers Endgame has caused a power struggle of sorts. Beck won't be the first charlatan to torment Peter Parker. And then this stunning sequence ends with Peter getting... That's nasty. Beck is not holding back because Peter is a child. He is more than willing to use any means necessary to dispatch a threat to his throne.
My name's Trevor Slattery.
What do you decoy your double, right?
Well, not understudy, no, absolutely not.
The reveal of Mysterio is, in many ways, Iron Man 3 done right.
See, that wasn't so hard.
And it does it without sucker punching the audience so much. And that's coming from a guy who thinks there's a lot to like about Iron Man 3. I think it's clever that the movie creates a bad guy that, at the time, we'd all come to expect. The strange off-kilter voice, the messiah complex, the grandiose mantras. For the reveal to be about the way in which the true villain, Killian, creates a villain both the powers that be in the movie and the audience watching want to watch, so that he can easily slip his true plan underneath the radar, is a great idea.
I wouldn't go in there for 20 minutes.
You might recall in our MCU ranking video that I said the problem with the Iron Man 3 twist isn't the twist itself, it's that the villain behind the twist is well, bland. To do that kind of rug pull right, the true villain needs to deliver. They need to be more interesting than the fake villain. The faux Mandarin played by Trevor Slattery is way more interesting than the real one we end up with. So we just end up resenting the narrative and the ideas it puts forth. Whereas Mysterio delivers. If you were in any way disappointed that the awesome superhero Mysterio, complete with mystical powers and an alternate reality multiverse backstory wasn't real, don't worry, because he gets replaced with a despicable, unhinged villainous character who places our hero in a complex, nightmarish illusion and has no qualms getting him acquainted with the business end of the 330 to Denmark. Of course, what Iron Man 3 does have going for it over Far From Home is a genuine shock. Everyone and their mums knew Mysterio wasn't going to be everything he was pretending to be, even if we didn't know how it was going to play out prior to release, whereas nobody saw the Mandarin twist coming. Hopefully one day we can get something between the two. All of this stuff is great, but Mysterio can only matter if he affects our hero in a meaningful way. Thankfully, Peter is put through the ringer.
Relax! Don't tell him to relax, Happy! How can I relax when I messed up so bad? I thought he was my friend, so I gave him the only thing that Mr. Stark left behind for me, and now he's gonna kill my friends in half of Europe.
After everything he has done, why would he think he stands a chance?
I don't know if that's me, Happy. I'm not Iron Man.
You're never gonna be Iron Man. You're never gonna be Iron Man. You're never gonna be Iron Man. You're never gonna be Iron Man.
It makes perfect sense Peter would replace Iron Man in this universe. He's got the skills, the brain, the tech know-how. He is in essence the next Iron Man. But that doesn't mean he's literally going to turn into Iron Man. It's not literal. I don't get how it's so hard to work out that it's a metaphor. It's not freaking literal.
His people are completely literal. Metaphors are gonna go over his head.
And as I said in our last Spidey video, none of this is given to him through nepotism. He has earned the right to have access to these tools. He was found by Stark, already doing his Spider-Man thing. He could have been given all the means, but without his own mind, he wouldn't be able to do things like make his own suit or his own webbing. He's a scientific genius all of his own making. His roots as a working class character remain exactly the same.
Tony was my best friend, and he was a mess. He second-guessed everything he did. He was all over the place.
I love this line, because it clarifies that, of course, Tony wasn't confident all the time. He wasn't always one step ahead. He didn't always know what to do.
The one thing that he did that he didn't second-guess was picking you.
It's probably the last great bit of character work you could give Iron Man before he finally leaves us for good. And how great is it that Mr. Jon Favreau, the man who kicked off this whole cinematic universe, gets to be the guy to tell Peter Parker that he has everything he needs to be a hero. It's a little bit meta and I dig it.
What are you gonna do about it?
I'm gonna kick his ass.
Gotta earn the power of self-respect.
This to me is the actualization of Peter Parker as the MCU's next greatest superhero. It is the moment that has built across several movies. The moment Peter embraces Spider-Man, truly.
What?
Nothing. You take care of the suit. I'll take care of the music.
Nope, not playing that bit. I've had enough copyright strikes recently. You just have to imagine Led Zeppelin. And with that, Peter dons an absolutely stonking new suit. Look at that beauty. Smashes up some drones and saves the day.
You can't trick me anymore.
All in all, a pretty great Spider-Man movie.
Something. I don't know what it is. It's something. Just, you know what? Double the damage.
Rip, but I don't think I'm gonna make it off this bridge alive. Spider-Man attacked me for some reason. He has an army of weaponized drones.
What?
There you have it, folks. Conclusive proof that Spider-Man was responsible for the brutal murder of Mysterio.
What?
Spider-Man's name is Peter Parker.
What? This is easily one of the best post-credit scenes Marvel has ever done. Not only does it feature an absolutely earth-shattering cameo, we all hope JK would reprise the role, but did we ever really expect it to happen? It actually adds to the crux of the movie. Mysterio's stint as a villain in Peter Parker's world comes to an epic crescendo. This scene dots the I's and crosses the T's. It means that no matter what, going forward, Spider-Man will never be the same again, all thanks to Quentin Beck. This is what every villain should do in every superhero movie. Irrevocably change the hero's life with no easy way out. Whether or not this sticks past the third movie is another question, but much like The Snap, this isn't about lasting plot changes, but lasting character changes. Peter Parker will come out of this whole situation a different man. As long as there is an equal exchange, a price that must be paid to return it to normality, then it works. This is more like Hydra and less like Malekith. Quentin Beck's presence has actually made a dent in the MCU. Having said that, I think they would be really missing a trick if they didn't bring Mysterio back in a big way. If they don't, I could see it being a little frustrating in the same vein as what happened to BBC's Sherlock. Like Mysterio, they had a devil of a baddie in Moriarty. Like Mysterio, they cast an actor who perfectly encapsulated the character. In the case of Moriarty, he was brought to life by the ever-excellent Andrew Scott. And like Mysterio, Sherlock's nemesis challenged him like never before. He then dropped a huge life-altering bombshell on him before dying.
Well, good luck with that.
And that meant Sherlock's life would never be the same. The issue came in the seasons after. The show decided, in spite of numerous teases, to keep the character dead. Sherlock never got an antagonist as well realised as Moriarty ever again, and the show massively suffered for it. Obviously, the key difference here is that Spider-Man has tons and tons of rogues lining up to be the next big bad in a Spidey film, including ones that haven't even had a chance to appear on film yet, so it wouldn't be quite the gut punch that it was for Sherlock. Moriarty is his #1 villain. But I think we've seen quite enough of Spider-Man villains doing a one-and-done appearance, popping their clogs never to be seen again. Having villains return gives them a chance to come back bigger, better, and more interesting. It gives us a chance to build upon the relationship established in the previous movie, and it's a license for them to get nastier and cause the hero more pain. If in just one movie, Mysterio was able to upend Peter's life like this, imagine what we could get in part 3. Plus, you could do so much more with the illusions he creates. The one we get in the movie is fantastic, but I think they missed a trick not giving us a more expansive version of that in the finale. As we've seen in multiple Batman Arkham games, nightmares and illusions can provide an excellent challenge for a superhero when they can't punch their way out. It also opens up new visual possibilities. Let's say Mysterio hired a bunch of B-tier villains to help him fight Spider-Man, say the Rhino, Shocker, even the Vulture. Adaptations have largely dialed back the more outlandish aspects of these villains in lieu of more functional, practical looks. But in Mysterio's world of illusions, anything is possible. The villains could appear in more cheesy, 60s inspired comic book outfits, and it would work. And if you need further proof of how far Jakey could take it, look no further than Denis Villeneuve's Enemy.
Did you fuck my wife? Did you fuck my wife?
That's good. That is fucking good.
Jake plays a history teacher, Adam, who stumbles upon his own doppelganger, a B-list actor, in the background of a random movie. He tracks him down, but this isn't any kind of sweet reunion. His double, Anthony, is headstrong, forceful, and all the things that Adam isn't. When they're in the same room together, Anthony's presence is terrifying. He's all hunger and greed, an opportunist who seizes his chance to be unfaithful yet again by posing as Adam in order to sleep with his girlfriend.
I am fucking crazy! I'm fucking crazy!
You want me out of your life? This is what's gonna happen first. You can give me your clothes and your car. I'm gonna take your girlfriend on a little romantic getaway. Then we will be even.
Anthony is a villain, but equally you feel disdain for Adam, so cowardly, so meek, that he allows his doppelganger to coerce his girlfriend into sex, which is really against her will, just to make the problem go away. He's willing to inflict pain upon someone close to him, just for his own peace of mind.
Never know how your day's gonna turn out.
You completely buy the timid, meek history teacher alongside the cunning, manipulative philanderer, in no small part because of Jake's multi-layered, subtle performance. The movie deals with infidelity, individual expression, and the ease with which we can slip back into our old ways, even mere moments after the point at which we have convinced ourselves we've changed. There's a pretty convincing line of argument that Jake's dual role is in fact singular, that the movie is the story of one man, a cheating husband, and his difficulty reconciling those disparate sides of himself. That he allows the worst side of himself to take over in order to justify his own innocence, washing his hands of his part to play. This is an idea that we know works really well when dealing with psychotic Spider-Man villains.
So many good things all happening for you, all for you, Norman.
Which brings me to a different proposed road for the character of Mysterio going forward. Empathy. We know he is a disgruntled ex-employee who put everything he had into his life's work, only to see it used by a manic superhero celebrity as a throwaway gadget, its full potential left unexplored. In Far From Home, this backstory is delivered to us, but it isn't supposed to elicit sympathy in the audience. If anything, it's laughable.
He renamed my life's work Barf.
Note how in the Civil War version of this scene there is no laughter, but in Mysterio's replay of events you can hear sniggering from the crowd, another sign of his unhinged narcissistic mental state.
Retro framing, or BARF. God, I gotta work on that acronym. Or BARF.
I think that works for a one and done. The meat of Mysterio's story in the film comes from his relationship with Peter, but if we see him again in a future movie, why not build on this in a different way? Adding a more sympathetic, tragic angle to the character alongside the already pre-established pathetic, conniving illusionist akin to the duality Gyllenhaal navigates so well in Enemy could be a great thing. And it works for Peter as a character. His villains always operate best when they can appeal to his own sense of empathy. He always wants to see the best in people, no matter what they've done. Peter's own moral compass dictates that he will try everything possible to bring that side to the surface. I think in this paradigm, Mysterio would be less Doc Ock and more Green Goblin, knowing that Peter is empathetic and using it to exploit him and leave him open to attack. What I'm saying is, Mysterio has all the depth and potential to be this high school trilogy's Green Goblin, in terms of his severity and importance to Peter's growth as a hero. What I'm not saying is he should be a replacement for good old Gobby, but I think if Sony and Marvel do indeed go down the route of giving us multiple Spider-Man trilogies, save the Green Menace for later down the line. He's the kind of ultimate tormentor that should be reserved when he further gets into his superhero career, if only so that the story has more license to get a bit meaner. Mysterio works in Far From Home because he is the first step in that bridge between Peter the boy and Peter the man, the, Spider-Man.
People need to believe.
Whether Mysterio comes back in the next installment, a movie further down the line, or not at all, there's no denying that Jake Gyllenhaal's villain has made it into the upper echelons of cinematic Spidey foes. More superhero movies, not just MCU movies, should follow in Mysterio's footsteps.
And nowadays, they'll believe anything.
Thank you for watching another full fat video. Don't forget to click that subscribe button and hit the bell if you'd like to see more breakdowns of movies, TV and more. A big thank you to our full fat tier patrons, Dr. Chike, Jax Merrick and Mike Nandu. You the boys. Until next time, keep it full fat.